It was of a different sort. You could tell the years had taken their toll, but the voice was still there.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the most important part, obviously. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Snellings. Present. Ferris.
Here.
Behrens.
Here.
Keating.
Present.
Bikeman. Rom.
Here.
Schrader.
Present.
Garacki.
Present.
7-0, you have a quorum.
Thank you. First up, we have approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes, regular meeting, October 14th, 2024 is written.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7-0.
Thank you. Next, we have special meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes, special meeting, October 21st, 2024 is written.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7-0.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have public comments. Anybody who's not on the agenda would like to come forward and speak to a maximum of 5 minutes. Feel free to do so. Please give your name, first and last name, address, and ward if you live in the city of Marysville. Would anybody like to come forward?
Good evening. I am Karen Hughes, and I live in Ward 2 of Marysville. I serve on the Kester House Museum Advisory Board, and I was also a member of the committee that met in June a couple of times to negotiate with the Frontier Development Group in regards to the Kester Block commercial property. Earlier this year, when the City Council started discussing the Kester Block properties, it seemed that the primary motivation with doing something with these properties was to unburden the city of the responsibility. I'm concerned that the ground lease with the Frontier Development Group in tonight's agenda doesn't really accomplish that. Yesterday, I submitted a list of questions to the mayor and the city administrator, and I understand that my questions were passed on to the city attorney, which I really appreciate that. I'll just go ahead and point out a couple of things that concern me. Number one of the memorandum of ground lease, which is the short version, is dated October 28, 2024, which is today. It states that Frontier Development Group, the tenant, takes from landlord, which is the city, all of the landlord's leasehold interest in and to the premises. That sounds like that the city is going to lose their commercial lease rental payments. And if the city does continue to receive the rent from the commercial properties, I don't know where that's clarified. I couldn't find it in the lease, in the long version of the lease. There's a pre-development phase, which is 18 months, which can also be extended by another 12 months, if they're not ready, before the development phase begins. And during this time, the city is responsible for paying the property taxes, the property insurance, along with all the repairs and maintenance to the buildings. So for 1.5 years, maybe 2.5 years, the city is still paying all the expenses. I don't know how this is helpful. Here are some of my other concerns. The city can only increase the annual rent every 6 years. So that means even if there's a huge inflation factor 1 year, the city might have to wait up to 5 or 6 years before they can even raise the rent. The tenant can mortgage the property. The tenant can even transfer their ownership interest in the property to someone else. It could end up in somebody's hands that isn't even interested in historic preservation. This is a big concern of mine. If the tenant accepts the option to buy the property at year 39, the CPI adjusted selling price of $10,000 is reduced by the annual payments that they've already made. It's like that the city would just be given the property to them. I don't know if the city has verified what the cost of carrying the comprehensive public liability insurance will be. Will the $1,000 payment that you'll get a year even cover that insurance cost? At the time that this lease was first discussed, that wasn't even a known factor, I don't believe. I know I didn't know it. And most importantly, where are the details about what the developer will do? Nothing is included in this lease about what will be improved on the upper levels, what repairs will be done on the main ground level businesses, or what improvements will be done to the exterior of the buildings. Nothing. There's no mention of anything. I do not think it's a wise decision to enter into a 50-year lease without having all the details. Normally, the council's very careful about this, about getting the details, about the financial information, everything before they vote on something. This is a very long commitment for the Marysville taxpayers. Tonight's agenda was the first time that the public was able to see this proposed lease. Something this important should not be voted on at the first meeting that it's made public, in my opinion. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
I'm Sarah Kessinger, Marysville advocate, publisher, and police reporter, and Ward 2 resident. After I read this week's bi-weekly police department report to council, I was struck once again by how repeatedly our city's law enforcement officers have done really remarkable things for public safety. Please strive to keep it that way. Please do what you can to keep Marysville Police Chief Matt Simpson in his role here, serving the public well, reaching out successfully for grants, and having his staff do so as well, and regularly getting out into the community. The grant awards buy important police equipment and training for officers at the highest level, a significant savings to taxpayers. I have covered government at many levels, and rarely have I seen such consistently effective use of time and talent in everyday operations and vital communication during natural disasters. A great example is the 2022 tornado, when the police department took the bull by the horns and really got everyone informed on what was going on, including the media right away. The department's dedication to readiness is not only critical to safety, but is reassuring, as I think our local school district would agree. The work has become a model for the entire city government and for the state of Kansas. Marysville should not be a way station for skilled city employees, but a destination. We all know this is a good place to settle down, raise a family, make friends, retire, and grow a better, stronger community. Although I'm sure they have their challenges, Matt Simpson and his officers serve as an example of what a small agency can accomplish when it puts its mind to it. Please don't let that go. Thank you.
Thanks, thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward at this time? If not, we will move on to Mandy Cook with the Marysville Public Library report.
Good evening. It's nice to see you all. Thanks for letting me come up here and talk to you. I'm not going to read the letter as per normal to you. However, I just wanted to kind of go paragraph by paragraph and highlight a little bit more information. The first paragraph talked about our closing. We have a brand new library information system that was implemented last Monday. My staff is awesome, and they've hung on with all feet and toes and nails and sorts of things like that, but it's going to be really good eventually once we get kinks worked out. One of the best things about this new system is we will have a universal card. What that means is if you have a card at the Marysville Public Library, you also have one at the Waterville Public Library and the Blue Rapids Public Library and the Hanover Public Library. 28 other libraries are in this consortium. What that basically means is then the amount of items that you'll be able to have at your disposal quickly will be increased by 28-fold. Well, I mean, the Marysville is the biggest, one of the biggest, but there still will be lots of other libraries at your fingertips, so to speak. So that is pretty darn awesome. The second paragraph talks about me being a part of a podcast, which was really fun. I very much enjoyed it. Not going to talk any more about that, but I will let you know that we are looking into starting our own podcast at the Marysville Public Library. So be waiting for that. We're pretty excited about that. And the next paragraph talks about what the Marysville Public Library card gives you access to, which is Libby. Talked about that a little bit last meeting, but we also have access, you also have access as a Kansas resident to get into the State Library of Kansas's resources. And they have lots of things like I listed, but one of the biggest things that they have that is really, really cool that connects us with the Historical Society as well is newspapers.com. I mean, there is just a ton of resource capabilities through being a Kansas resident. So come in and see us if we can help you out with that. And lastly, the doc grant, kind of our first round of fundamental classes are done. We still have one called Your Guide to Safe Shopping Online that's coming up both in Marysville and Blue Rapids. We're excited about that here at the beginning of the month. And I'm actually presenting at a statewide conference about the doc grant. So spread the Marysville love throughout the state. Is there any questions you have for me or anything else you would like to hear about next month?
That's great. You have good work.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mandy.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mandy.
yeah, you bet. I'm gonna stay close.
Okay, next up we have a proclamation from the K organization. Mandy, would you like to speak to that?
I don't need to do any more than what is in this statement unless you have any questions. Our K Citizenship Week is coming up here pretty soon, and the kids just always really enjoy it. We're collecting items for the community, hats, gloves, socks, things like that. And we will have we'll round out the week with a beach volleyball scooter tournament. Say that quickly 3 times, it's difficult. And, you know, the kids really come together. They compete classes, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, and it's really fun to see them be silly and be loud, scooting around on their butts, trying to get beach volleyballs over the net. So that's really how we celebrate, but I think that it's really cool to be able to declare Marysville K Club for one of those weeks. So unless there's any questions, I'll let Todd take over.
Okay, yes. All right, I will read the proclamation. The Marysville High School K Club Week will be celebrated November 3rd through 9th, 2024. Whereas the K Club's core goals are to empower Kansas students with lifetime leadership skills and an attitude of service to others, and whereas participation in K builds character, promotes good citizenship, and improves life skills, now therefore be it resolved that I, Todd Fry, Mayor of the City of Marysville, do hereby proclaim November 3rd through 9th, 2024, Marysville High School K Club Week. Proclaimed. Thank you, Mandy. All right, next we will move forward to the business and discussion items. First up, additional information request. We requested more information on the Convention and Tourism Christmas tree. We did get the info late, so I don't know. We cannot.
No decision.
We can't make a decision on it, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, no, I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have outside of what I sent this morning, so I apologize for that. Wayne's been a busy man out at conferences these past 2 weeks, so we finally got everything finalized this morning and over to you guys, so.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys have any questions
I
now.
do like the planted tree, called the perennial Christmas tree being added in as a possibility as well, just me personally. I don't know what other people had thoughts.
I like that too.
Yeah, it was, like I mentioned in the email, talked with a few residents after that previous meeting, and that was input from the few that I talked to, so I figured that's definitely an option we should consider and see what the city's thoughts are and any guidance from you guys on how you want to proceed.
We are an Arbor Day city, so I mean, it's fitting.
40 years, right?
40, yeah. Over 40 some. I don't update the stickers on the sign.
I think it's a good option, the planted. I think we'd have to think about a permanent site and where that's going to be, because we're going to have to plan out 80 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, make sure that it's going to fit for 80 years from now.
Yeah.
Know where that is.
Yeah. I mean, I my concern when thinking about it was you want it somewhere that's gonna be very visible and marquee. It can't be too tucked away. But also want somewhere it can thrive and hopefully not get hit by winds or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's probably a good windbreak as well, so wherever we place it.
I like the idea of the planted tree just because it has the generational aspect of, hey, my kids, hopefully their kids, can celebrate with the same tree. So that's kind of where my mind goes to.
You could even go so far as when you're decorating it for Christmas, have the community bring ornaments and put ornaments on it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing that as a kid for the Eisenhower tree at Abilene.
Yeah.
We all made ornaments for that, so.
And other than the planting and watering and getting it started, it should be somewhat less work maybe. Just
I would
some,
think so, yeah. No setup, no
no
tear down,
storage.
so.
It stores itself.
Or that, yeah. Yeah.
What's the maintenance on something like that take for trimming and things like that? And
I think we'd have to consult with some of our tree experts to know that, but.
Dom could.
We could use the tree board.
Yeah. This is a great tree board project.
There you go.
Because they could kind of choose what's something that's hardy and less susceptible to disease too.
Yeah,
Obviously.
usually the fast growing are not as hardy.
They're not
but-
as hardy. They're not as sturdy either, so. And it doesn't have to start huge. It can get huge over 80 years.
Yeah. If we could start at a, decent height, 4, 6, 8 feet, and then, see it blossom from there, so. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I guess fodder for future conversations, so.
Okay.
Hopefully next meeting we can kind of decide a path forward. Sorry, we can't.
No, that's,
move forward
I
tonight.
figured with the information getting to you
Yeah.
guys late, we, wouldn't get anywhere today, so.
That's right. Anybody else have questions or comments?
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the One Marysville website discussion.
I guess Wayne and I both, we had talked about this before he took off for his conferences, and I guess the first thing that we needed to know is, or clarification, that you guys wanted to incorporate the Marysville website and the information on there into the One Marysville website. Is that correct? Not a new website, just incorporating that information into what the format, the platform that we're doing? Or were you guys expecting a completely brand new individual website?
I think that was if it was feasible for the included price, what it was already at, and not adding additional costs. We were just seeking information on if that was a possibility.
Not just connecting them, but also reinventing, I guess, maybe the Marysville site, because we wouldn't want it to be, we don't want to hand over all the data and the things that we need to have on there and the access we need to have internally. But we did want it to have a better user experience and get the traffic that being connected would hopefully provide.
Absolutely. Well, you hit the nail on the head, because that can be done. Last week when I was at the Kansas Tourism Conference, Joel Goldberg, who's one of the sportscasters for the Kansas City Royals, he's the one who talked about, our job is to make life easier for people. And he talked about that in several different ways. But as I was listening to his speech, this conversation resonated with me, because when you look at how we started the conversation for even becoming One Marysville, one of those early conversations was, if a visitor's coming to Marysville, do they care if they're getting the information from the city of Marysville or Chamber or Main Street or Convention and Tourism? They don't. They need the information. Does it matter? Sometimes we as in the locals get so mired down in like the alphabet soup. Is it CNT? Is it CMS? Is it city? But really, that doesn't matter. And so that's when we started, that's really what got our conversation to become One Marysville started. And then as we worked on the website, that really was the driving force to make it one place. So that's the one stop for everything. 2 weeks ago when I met with the Museum Alliance, they have a joint website right now, and the contract's coming up in a couple of months. Well, they're not going to renew it because they're part of this website. So part of this is we're helping them save some money, but we're driving everyone right here to this website. So yes, the city, the way it's designed, we can incorporate that within the current design.
Is that kind of what other people were thinking as well?
But at what cost?
Well, so that's the other, I mean, this also kind of connects, I think, to number 3 under our business and discussion, but unless that's a separate line, actual separate conversation, but what is the associated cost with kind of being able to do that?
We can make that happen within this current budget.
That's what.
Incorporating into
Yeah.
our platform and website, yeah.
Yeah,
So $0.
that's right.
So that maybe makes it even more palatable, the whole project, because if we can also get this as a benefit, then.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we thought about when we looked at this website, we cannot afford a $30,000 website. When we were talking, Colleen, we were just like you. We're like, yeah. We were all thinking, gosh, 10,000. And so then when we got the grant that then split it into thirds, we're like, wait a minute. Now we can get a $30,000 website, but we're each paying $10,000, which was more with what our budgets were. So that's how we were comfortable moving forward with that.
And I will add that it is important to remember that it's not just the website we're getting. We rebranded, we got a design, a logo, that's coming with the website itself. So, if you take into account the branding and the design, $30,000 probably isn't, that significant in the grand scheme of it. If you, give it a Google search, Google pops up AI, you're looking at 10 to 50,000 for a website for a small entity or a small business. So that's just the website. That's not even branding incorporated into that cost.
So what's our cost gonna be?
So, I mean, my understanding is that the city would not incur any costs as part of having that revamping process. It'd be more an issue of coordinating and making sure, obviously, we do everything above board and make sure all of our information that we want and legally have to present is readily available as well. I don't know who internally is the technology point person to kind of do that coordinating. Would that be you, Josh?
No, right now that is Deb.
It's Deb. Oh, who's here?
Do you see this as an
It's who?
asset, Josh?
I can see it as an asset. Personally, I would prefer keeping them separate because they serve different purposes. I do completely agree that the whole point is bringing everything together. However, with them serving different purposes, I think that it doesn't quite make sense. Honestly, I'd prefer if your guys' website's always going to pop up first when Marysville is searched, because we want our visitors and our people around Marysville to visit that site, because that's where all the events are. That's where, you should find the information on the hotels. We more serve as a different service. And then there's certain things that are required to be on our website that, depending on control of the website, cannot be deleted. And so we would have to have some kind of protections in place if we were to go altogether.
I hear what you're saying, Josh.
Okay.
It's not that I disagree, but
Yeah.
the way this is designed, when we looked at this one site, a visitor is different than a business owner, is different than a citizen. And so the way this is designed, and part of the reason it's so expensive, is that when you hop on there, you can meet all of those needs. And so the way they have this designed, you're not getting overwhelmed, but you can figure out, oh, I'm a new business owner, I want to go here, and here's all the information I need. Or I'm someone new to Marysville. It pops up several times, because that's a worry of ours. How do we connect with new folks to Marysville? How do we make sure they feel welcome? So within the concept, that theory is built in. I know what you mean by that, but.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see how it would all play. I haven't seen the website at all, so I almost feel like demonstrations need to happen at some point. And I can see us having more connecting interfaces than what we currently do. Right now, we have your guys' old calendar from your Chamber Main Street page, but that's about it based on.
It's hard to know without knowing what it's going to look like. I mean, kind of the way I would see it is, I don't know what the landing page looks like, but if there's like a governance or something, we'll call it link, and you go through that portal and it gives you to a city website that's connected but standalone.
Oh, sure.
And that way it can have all what we have now, but it looks cohesive.
Right.
It looks like this was designed and not just kind of spliced together. And then also the city's website can have have links for all the ordinances and the city the governing body, all these other organizations, but things to do and tourism or whatever, and you can
Right.
click and it can link back out so that they're connected and a little more uniform. Because I think the uniformity is right now, you do a beautiful website and it connects to ours. Ours just feels, I think it was designed long enough ago, it looks a little tired. It's got all the information there.
Right.
But it's due for kind of a revamp, and I think that'd be nice to be able to have them be a little more cohesive.
Yeah, I think your statement about having everything that we have being put on there is accurate, but then more, better, would
yeah.
also be,
Yeah.
a good statement. I would say from our side, we weren't sure how council would want us to update it. And so that's why the next discussion item is on there, because if we were to stay with the website we currently have, we need guidelines for what are you all looking for, what needs to be updated.
I spend all day on the internet, so I've definitely got some opinions on this. But, yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely improve it. That's kind of also the idea is if starting from a little bit of a different platform, it might be easy for us to excise stuff that we don't need and update stuff. I think I joked with somebody when I started as mayor that we should get somebody to come and take pictures, so even our photographs are uniform, because mine's very dated. And a lot of other people's are too. It'd be nice to just kind of work through that a little bit. It wouldn't be expensive, it would be work, but I think we could really improve it and find things like the ward maps, the last council meeting videos and things. It could be a little bit easier to do that with a different design.
Yes, and I think overall, the message that we send is really important. That concept of one, I don't think we should poo-poo that or shove that to the side. I mean, what message are we sending to where we're headed and how our town operates? I think that's important whether you live here or whether you're visiting here.
2 questions. If somebody searches for the city of Marysville, is the city gonna come up, or is the one Marysville gonna come up?
I think it would depend on how you
I
search.
think that too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if you put in City of Marysville, Kansas, and search for that, because I did that today,
And what happened?
and City of Marysville
Came
website
up,
come
yeah.
up. So that's why,
I would even think it would be appropriate for theirs to come up first, as long as ours is in the first 3.
Right.
I still think that it would be appropriate for
Yeah.
theirs to be the most.
And as long as there's a fast
searchable,
way, if you go to theirs,
Right.
to get out to
Right.
ours, where
Yeah.
that governance or whatever. So, yeah, you want to make it multiple ways to get there, because people are going to find it different ways.
Colleen,
second
I can hear in the
question.
back of my mind, I can hear Blight talking about this, but I can't come up with his answers. So I know he has an answer to that.
Second question, is city employees going to have the ability to put the stuff on it that they need to put
Yes.
on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, because we need to make sure we have that access.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like to Josh's point, things we need to have data preservation.
right,
And protocols in place.
right.
When I'm thinking ownership of the site, because if something were to happen that we would decide, it needs to be split up, how are we all doing that also? So, just things to think about as we move forward.
The domain and all that.
Yeah, which we wouldn't have put in all the money, so clear, we want to own the domain, but.
Yeah. And so are you gonna have your own domain? Okay.
We have onemarysville.com and onemarysville.org.
Not .net.
Outdated. There was a great answer, I
so-
couldn't think of it.
I mean, I guess, I think council in general agrees that it'd be nice to do some improving to our website. How that all works is a work in progress.
I'd like a
Yes.
demonstration.
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice to have a website that looks like it's not compatible with Windows 95.
Just what I was thinking, it's like on an old Mac, way back in the day,
Just kind of has
a Macintosh.
Nothing the kids
Great.
just has that
Um, So, I mean, other than that, moving forward with the website project, we haven't approved the final leg of the funding, is my understanding. So, I mean, I don't know that we can make that decision and then proceed in good faith with building this as a city website and connecting it and doing that. What's the council's wishes going forward?
I mean, it's not costing the city any money. This is all falling within the purview of your already established budget, and I don't know. I don't see an issue with delaying it any longer.
So we're not gonna be paying $10,000. Are we gonna be paying the $10,000?
That was not the comment about the city not paying. It was if the city were to be added
The city, the
onto
additional,
it.
that still would
Right.
be coming, but we're gonna get
Yeah.
additional value.
I think the 10,000
as
is
well.
still the original
Yeah,
ask. and-
that ask is still in the air. But the idea is that in addition, we are getting an additional benefit here by bringing the city's website into this century.
What, do you remember what the final amount was? Was it 30,000 even? I'm gonna move to approve the request to consider the $30,000 approval.
Just 10,000.
I mean, we're happy to.
10,000. Splits it. Okay, I move to approve the $10,000 from the budget for the website.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
Yes, okay. My whole problem with it is what I stated at the Admin and Finance Committee meeting, is city is anything over $7,500, you're supposed to submit bids for it, no matter what it is. That's the way it's always been. And on this, we have never seen a quote or a bid or anything, and you didn't take bids, so you picked the company you wanted to do it and are working within that. And that's my issue with it.
I appreciate you saying that. Is this a city? I've never heard that before.
It's been that way for years, that anything over 7,500 has to go out for bids.
Okay, well,
And
I'm not arguing with you, but I'm just saying, as someone,
I
I
told
consider
Tyler
myself.
that at the Admin
I
and
just didn't
Finance
relay that
Committee
message.
meeting.
I understand
quite
that,
yet.
but even before we did this, Colleen, I've been involved for 20 years. I've never heard that from this committee. So I'm not arguing with you, but I'm just saying, there's
And
a way
that's
that.
my issue with
Yeah,
it. is
I get what you're saying, but then.
We're not-
I would say to the council, make sure you're communicating
more of
that
a-
with people who are working.
Administrative.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have made exceptions before where there was circumstances where it was somebody we already were working with or we had familiarity with. We might have made some exceptions around that rule, but I do know what you're talking about.
Right.
And like with the Christmas tree, we would have known a lot more information if we had had bids when Tyler brought it to us, so.
Right.
So anyway, that's my problem with it, so.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing it up in a public meeting, Colleen, because that way, hopefully Chris is hearing this and we all can learn from this.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 5-2. Oh, fine.
One. It's one. Yeah, 6-1.
6-1.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next up, we have upgrading the City of Marysville website. I assume these are kind of connected conversations.
Yeah, I feel like we already covered that.
We'll work on that one,
Yep.
in part of this project going forward. All right, next up, we have the Charles J.D. Kester House Museum Foundation.
Hi, I'm Vicki Philippi, 1400 Park Place, Ward 1.
Rick, I think 950 J off Road, Marysville. One.
And we're representing the Kester House, and hopefully you all got in your packet the questions that we had. And so that's kind of, we just want to go through and maybe get some answers on those questions. The first one is, can you tell us what the asking price of the restaurant building is?
So there was no asking price with the RFP. It could be in this middle, or it'll be brought out during the negotiation phase after a group has been chosen to go to that phase.
Right.
So
That was
it is
kind
in
of-
flux until that step is.
And I think a lot of it, and kind of to multiple of the questions, is you intentionally leave some things vague in an RFP process, so that way you have all that to negotiate
Right.
when you do kind of move forward. Because if the more you put in there as requirements, you're gonna generally limit the amount of people who respond to your RFP, and you kind of lock yourself into things. Whereas If you leave it open, it gives us flexibility and ultimately the ability to accept or reject anything, so.
Right. I really didn't expect an answer to that question. We tried. Okay, so then that kind of leads into the next one. So has that building been appraised, and what is fair market value?
The building has not been appraised, outside of what's on the county's website, for taxes. And then once again, the fair market value or, what it would be sold for would be, discussed during the negotiation.
We did get a report that it was appraised at $82,060. Fair market value was $368,800.
How much was that last number?
368,800. So that kind of leads into our next question. If and when it is sold, if it is not given back to the Kester family, would the proceeds or part of those proceeds go back to funding of the museum? That was discussed at one time, that we would, so to speak, not profit from, but maybe be helped in that respect.
I can't speak to the council, I can only speak for myself, but I was kind of under the impression that that was our goal, that we not be removing any money from the block. We try to keep as much of it invested and in there with the original intent as possible. But we haven't, that has not been carved in stone, but personally that's the direction I feel like we should or would go.
I was gonna say, that money would stay in that fund, and that fund is only for the block. So it would be put somewhere in the block, and that would then be up to
hopefully
council, yeah.
Divided out in some way. Okay. So if that entity, an entity would buy that property, rent or lease besides us, and in the future it would be sold, will we have the first right of refusal to who it would be sold to?
Well, I could have to come back to the city first, right?
That'd be something we could discuss. I think those are a little difficult. That'd be kind of a legal question with our attorney, but that's definitely something we would discuss, but it would probably revert to the city itself rather than to a third party, and then the city would at that time have to make a decision. If that's a lot of ifs.
Right, and these are probably questions that are more food for thought on your part as we are making these decisions, hopefully tonight. So then we get down to the green space, and we had in previous meetings requested that we had included that green space in our proposal so that we could have events, different activities there. If that green space is not awarded to us, we hate to see it made into a parking lot or some of that similar situation, that it's not left as a green space as far as the Santa House and activities that could be done in the future. Just other food for thought as you're discussing. And maybe one of the things that's maybe most important to us, at what point do you think you might be deeding the museum over to us as a foundation?
I know the discussion had been April as a timeline, potential timeline on that. Another one of those not carved in stone.
Right.
The idea there was it behooves us to do it sooner rather than later because we are having to mine, funds for that we haven't, it's a finite resource that we're trying not to completely tap out to make sure that, lights are on, security systems paid for, of course, heat and everything else. So I think that was the original discussion, was April. I don't think there's a lot of appetite to go later than April, but we also do understand it will be a process. So in order for the foundation to have their ducks in a row, we want to make sure that it's, something timeline that works for both parties.
Well, we were hoping, yes, for the April. So we just kind of were trying to get something in mind so we could maybe go out and start putting our information out there to get maybe some monies coming towards us. And then that kind of leads us into also what you are still going to be liable for until April. Are you going to finish the heating system on our second floor?
On the second floor, I don't know that we have the budgeted funds to be able to do that. I think the last winter, correct me anyone if they're wrong, but we thought that the structure was designed in such a way that the upstairs was, you know, since there's no water in the lines upstairs now, it could kind of, for lack of a better term, stay the way it was, kind of hang loose until funding later became available to bring the heat back to upstairs, mainly because a lot of old houses didn't have heat upstairs anyway, so the heat would rise. I don't think we have the funds to be able to tackle that project, unfortunately.
I think in the previous discussions, the reason we chose April was the foundation requested around that time because they had things that they needed to do to get ready for that.
Yeah, that was part of it. And I mean, as much as we obviously want to make sure it's taken care of, and should an emergency arise that, we're not going to a tree falls and knocks a wall out, we're not going to not fix that. We're going to work on that and make sure that the place is well taken care of as best we can. But as far as taking on those kinds of projects, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to do that in the interim.
And if I remember correctly, the plumber said that because nobody lived upstairs and the heat rises,
yes,
the house would stay warm enough with the heat the way it is.
Because the lines to the upstairs are capped still, I believe.
They are shut off, and we were under the impression that those would be opened up so that the radiators upstairs could function to keep that second floor, because we can't do a lot of the plaster work and ceiling work until it's at a certain temperature.
It's conditioned, yeah.
But
I agree that would be optimal, but because of the nature of all these things in place, we probably aren't going to be able to tackle that.
I think some of those registers upstairs too, or if we put water to them, they'd leak.
The lines leak too.
The lines leak.
I think it's a bigger project, and that's kind of why we did hit the pause button, because I think it's like a lot of plumbing projects especially seem to go where you get in a little bit and then it's a little bit more replacement or a little bigger than you might have expected.
so come April 25th, we get it as is with no improvement.
I would say
April
25.
Sorry.
Yes, April 25th.
Yeah, I would say that
right.
there's no current plans for any further improvements beyond what it is right now, correct? But
barring any.
Right.
Yes.
Like I say,
Right.
I mean, something, as soon as I say nothing's going to happen, something will happen.
It'll happen tomorrow.
So, yeah.
Right. Okay. Can you think of any other questions that we need to ask?
And for what it's worth, I mean, I completely understand why you would want a timeline and for us to firm that up for your purposes, and that benefits us as well. So I think that's definitely something we can work on as far as getting more firm timelines in place so that you can have the legwork on your side, as far as what projects or fundraising goals or efforts and things. And obviously we would want to be as supportive of you being able to do that as we can.
I mean, the furnace, could you guys inspect it? Because we looked at it, well, there was a plumber down there doing something, but he looked, and some of the jets or whatever were, they were rusted up. I mean, it needed to be cleaned. It hadn't been cleaned for quite a while.
Well, I'd say we can definitely look into that, because obviously if the heat goes off, that's going to be the problem we had before.
Yeah, we need heat.
We definitely want to make sure the heat stays on. Do you know when it was inspected last? Anybody?
I saw somewhere that it
was
was.
inspector
comes every year, so probably it was this spring.
I don't know if it's ever. Okay.
No, it's every year.
Okay.
So the boiler inspector was there from the state.
So if the boiler inspector either didn't catch it or it wasn't part of that inspection, maybe, I don't know enough about hot water heat. Okay.
So can we request that is
it's done
taken care of before?
Yeah. But if we need to have somebody look at it, I think that's something that would make sense for us to do. Absolutely.
I'd say the sooner the better.
Yeah, I'd say it's going to get cold in the next month.
Real quick.
So.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have rules and regulations for food truck program, 12 to 14.
So, you know, as you know, we've gotten more food trucks over the past few years, so we felt like some updated rules and regulations would make sense. Will and I had looked at a couple different cities, and we decided that copying the Osawatomie plan and adapting it to our own would work well. This was taken to the Planning Commission, and they voted to recommend it for council. And this would include creating a new license outside of the peddler's permit.
So the planning commission was
Yeah.
on board?
Yep, they met, I think, 3 times about this, so it's been a longer discussion.
So I'd like to move to approve the new rules and regulations for food truck program.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So with this, we'll have to discuss the cost of the license and then also cost of fines in order to return the spaces back to how they were if trash was left behind, but that can be a discussion at a later date.
Be a work in progress?
Yep.
Okay.
Who will be responsible for,
Cleaning up?
no,
Policing it.
for the fines and stuff? Would that be the PD or city inspector or?
The PD would, and so they'll have to have their license with them in the vehicle. They'll have to have their health inspection from the state. If they're on a private property, they'll have to have written permission from that private property owner. All that will be able to be asked of them, and they'll have to present that to an authority that it's such as the PD. And then, yeah, they would get the ticket, and then that would go through municipal court. For the trash, we would probably have our Parks Department clean it up, and then I assume the fine would be similar to what we have for Water Department if work is done, or any of our other departments when they have to do work for a private individual like that, so.
As far as licensing costs and things, is there an average to go by, or how's that?
Cities are very different in how much they do it. I think right now we have $100 per year. Is that right for the peddlers?
Peddlers.
Yep.
Most
So some cities for their food truck licenses are up to $400 a year. So I would say it does range, so I would say that you guys should think about it. Talk to some people that own food trucks. If it's $400, it would possibly take more than one time in order to get overhead, but it would mean that they would be coming back. So that's always a positive.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that much money.
So what
I'd rather have somebody in town peddling food.
How does that work in that industry? Like when I sell materials with my business, I, pay tax and all that. Do they have to do the same thing, or do they have to set up their own entity for that? Or?
Yep, they all have their own, and
Has to have
I believe they'll
business
have to have-
licenses.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Kevin, when they set up at the Masonic Temple, do they get permission to be, okay.
So now they would need written permission, not just verbal.
Everybody has permission, everybody has their own liability insurance to be there.
And they
It's
do
not
have to
on me, so.
stay a certain amount of feet away from existing food establishments. They have to stay away a certain number of feet from city-sponsored events if they were not invited into the event. So that way they're not just piggybacking off of the event. There are certain public areas that are like public property that they could be on. So I think we have the 7th Street corridor, and then we have the Lakeview upper parking lot, and then we have north of the fire station. So.
What about parks? Are they allowed to be in any of the parks? Not even for like the Mother's Day flea market, because I know they had some.
They would possibly be a part of the event, so.
They would just have to buy a spot like the normal guys would.
Yep, and that they would still go through Wayne. So,
A lot of times it's like $25 a time, $400 a year. You know, that kind of, like the cutter's license is $10 a time, $100 a year.
Oh, so they could pay it $10?
So we're, as you go.
All right. Thanks for all your work on that. Okay, next up we have the grass exemption for Andy Wapniowski. Probably butchering that last name. This was one that we had discussed at the last council meeting, and then it went to admin and finance committee to discuss whether we wanted to carve out an exemption or how we wanted to handle the situation as it is on the lots up off of Oto Street. It was the discussion at the admin and finance committee meeting that for the time being, since it's, as the rules are clearly stated, he's got to clean it up, mow it, to remediate the fire hazard in the immediate sense. And then moving forward, we're gonna look at creating a policy, maybe with some constraints as far as breaking it up, mowing fire breaks, height requirements, plant requirements. We'll kind of feel it out as far as what some other cities are doing for similar situations to see if there's kind of a middle ground for situations like this. But in the immediate sense, we felt that there's enough of a danger because the citation is in place that remediating it as prescribed under current ordinance is the way to proceed.
with the fire chief being contacted too.
Correct, with the fire chief being contacted and, you know, making sure if there need to be anybody on hand to douse anything that might pop up, because it is quite woolly. That way we have that protected. Although we're gonna get some rain this week, it might be a little helpful as well.
I guess I would just say, I've actually had a lot of visitors about this one, like a ton of visitors in favor of him being able to have the native grass thing. They feel like his points that he brought up in the council meeting were really valid, and, you know, a lot of them with the pests and stuff made and this is what people are telling me now, so don't shoot the messenger. But, you know, with, you know, possums and things and skunks, I think that most of these people said that's an issue whether you have tall grass or not. And I think that's the same in my opinion, because my grass is very well manicured and I get lots of possums and skunks.
Well, and I think that that's just a symptom of their proximity to a wooded area in the northwestern portion of the community. I think that just, and when I lived a block west of Dargets there, when we first moved, I had 2 deer run through my front yard, so it's center of town.
Now we've actually had deer in our yard, believe it or not.
You know,
Yeah, I think people appreciate what he's doing, but we have to regulate it somehow.
No, right, no, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of where we went with the admin and finance committee, is like, we somehow have to regulate this. So Will's doing all the research for us on the best way to do that.
And I'm a hunter, but I'm also a conservationist, and I see the point of the native prairie land, the pollinator flowers. I think that that's important as far as the very base of our ecosystem, you know, with the bees. So I kind of look at it a little bit differently, I guess, because if I could have bees.
But you gotta control it too, though.
What?
You have to control it.
Correct.
Which I don't think there's much control there right now. That's where we need to look at.
That's why we're in a position where we need to kind of solve the quote unquote immediate problem. But as stated in the previous meeting, I'm sympathetic to that, you know, conservation, the natural ecology of it, but it needs to be done in a way that's not dangerous for neighbors and that we can kind of manage as a city, because it is in city limits.
To piggyback off, go ahead. To piggyback off Kyle, I had somebody talking to me about it and they wanted to know, can they have bees in Marysville? Okay.
We don't.
I wouldn't see
Just chicken, no chicken.
Unless you have 2 acres.
Oh, yeah.
I would also say that we owe Andy the due diligence that if we're gonna come up with something, we need to get going on it, not let this. Because it's obvious that from his discussion, he put a lot of time, money, effort into getting it to where it was, and now he's gonna have to mow all that
Well,
down.
and
But I understand the safety aspect and everybody has to follow the rules. I agree with that.
Yes, but he could have maybe came to council before he started this project too and
No,
said,
100%,
hey,
100%.
this is what I'm thinking about doing, what's the proper protocol
so,
for this?
as we're
Agreed.
developing this, I would say this to anybody, but him especially, if he wants to be part of the conversation as a subject matter expert, absolutely, we would welcome that conversation. I'd tell anybody who's got strong opinions on it, especially these scientific opinions, whether it's in regards to the fire danger or it's butterfly habitat or whatever, definitely we can talk about that and use that in kind of formulating a plan for going forward.
But to that point, I mean, we all live under, you know, the same governance and we all have to follow the same rules. So I'm completely in agreement with the decision that I'm in the finance company came up with. I mean, I think that's the right thing to do as a whole for all the citizens, because everybody should be treated equally. But I think we do owe it to him to at least give him an option for that, what he wants to do.
So now, yeah, we've got to formally kind of make an exception because we've had it on hold, so. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to go with the recommendation of the admin and finance committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, you. And we, I think we are gonna keep working on that in the background as far as, so we're ready for next year. We've got a few months, but it's easy to put things on the back burner too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the grass will go dormant before long.
yeah, for sure. Okay, next up we have, condemnation of 904 May.
So as you all know, there was a condemnation hearing on August 12th this year for 904 May Street. The property owner had until September 10th, 2024 to remove all the items from the premises. So now at this time, I believe the council should take the steps to approve the demolition of the structure on the property through RFP. Plus, I would also like us to board it up in the meantime.
Have any improvements been made at all?
No, it's already been
Has it
condemned.
visited the property?
This
Do
isn't
we
the
know if
same
it's-
one.
No, I know,
Yeah.
I know, I just,
Do we know if if the house have we entered the premises?
I would have to ask, but I don't believe so at all.
You could
So,
look just through like the burn holes on the wall.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. I think boarding it up is a good idea. For sure.
probably have
Well,
safety issues, yeah.
But we have to,
Yeah.
we have to go out. Hopefully it's not particularly expensive. It's not a large house, so maybe that bodes well.
And since I'm new to this, with a condemnation, when the city condemns something, does that property revert to the city, or how does that work?
No, so
if
it's
there's a
still-
liability issue with the kid crawling in the house and getting injured, who is that on legally?
it should be on the property owner.
It's still
Yep.
the property owner.
And so even if we do the RFP to demolish, we might demolish it, but then that's put back on the property owner, so.
I'd like to move to approve the recommendation by the city administrator to move forward with the condemnation.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yep. Okay, next up, we have ordinance 1934 for annexing 1175 Pony Express Highway. This is the one we'd previously discussed in order to get water service to it's Murdaugh. It's across from Pizza Hut, Walmart, O'Reilly.
Move to approve annexation of 1175 Pony Express Highway Ordinance 1934.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call?
Snelling,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
nobody, Thrum,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Guaraki.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. All right, next up we have item number 9, the Frontier Development Group lease agreement. So you've had this to review. There have been some other questions brought forward. So is there questions, discussion the council would like to have regarding that at this time?
I guess my one thing, it's my understanding that the insurance portion of it is we have to carry a municipal liability insurance on the entire block, correct?
We have a general liability insurance.
General liability on the block.
And our policy will be secondary.
Yeah, so they're named as so we're named on his liability as second insured.
Correct.
And same thing with us as him being.
Well, we're going to be named on FGD's policy as an additional insured party. The city will maintain its own general liability insurance.
Which we have already.
Which we have all over the city, so it should not be an additional expense to the city for that purpose.
Okay.
So, oh, sorry.
There was also a question raised about the tenant lease payments from current tenants. How does that flow? To Karen's question.
Until the commencement date is reached, those lease payments are still going to go to the city. Upon commencement, the tenant will take over those lease payments and receive those lease payments.
And commencement is a movable date. It does say 18 and then plus 12 if needed.
And so that if it is extended beyond the initial 18-month term, the commencement, the date that the developer will take over insurance is at the renewal of the pre-development period. So it'd be on day one of that 12-month pre-development renewal period. He would be responsible for taking over insurance for the premises. Two, the commencement date can be a moving target. If the developer acquires funds necessary to begin on the project, then he can accelerate the commencement date, at which time he will have to take over all responsibilities as laid out in the terms of the lease.
There was a question about the historic preservation as well, wasn't there?
There was, just let me try to find it.
If someone else took over
So that if the developer would assign his rights in the leasehold interest to someone else, they would still be bound, the assignee would still be bound by the terms of this lease, which they'd have to abide by historical preservation. So anybody that this lease would potentially be assigned to would still have to abide by the terms of it while it's still in effect.
Okay, perfect.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the lease agreement with Frontier Property Development.
Second.
As presented.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion on this? As was mentioned earlier in the meeting, this is obviously a big momentous, no matter how you feel necessarily about it, a big momentous development for the city, as this has been something that's been, in our purview for a number of years, and we don't take lightly the moving forward and the protection of it and the benefit of the city that can be had. So, weighing that in mind, is there any further discussion on it?
I think that's one of the biggest reasons we went to a lease instead of a sale, because we want to protect it for the city and for the people. But I think it's a good thing to move the city forward, and I think it's going to bring a lot of positives.
Okay, proceed to vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have item number 10, the resolution 2024-24, a blight declaration for 901 through 913 Broadway.
Move to approve resolution 2024-24.
Second.
And,
Where is this?
Where is that at?
This is the commercial building.
So I was going to say, do you want to, Josh, or would you like to explain the need or the background of why this blight declaration?
So to qualify for CDBG funds, so Commercial Development Block Grant funds, you have to meet a certain category within it, and blight is one of them. And under the examples that are in the resolution, we do meet a lot of that with the buildings. We do have businesses in there, but if you look at the exterior of the building, we do have exterior damage. If you look at the upper stairs, we do have blight in the upper floors. And so in order for FDG and Tyler to qualify for a CDBG, a blight declaration would be needed.
Okay, we got a second, right? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Does this currently affect any of the businesses in there right now that wouldn't negatively impact them throughout this term?
It's really a formality.
Understood.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have water, sewer rates, and stormwater discussion.
So we put this on the agenda just so that we can get a firm idea of what we should put in the ordinance, to see which way council was leaning. If it is more towards what was identified in the secondary report from the water rate study for the water and sewer rates, or if there was some kind of change outside of the two-year plan. And then also with stormwater, we kind of need to firm up what exactly the plan is for that. We have had discussions about $10 for residents and $20 for commercial and industrial. Personally, I think that's a very strong first-year plan. Second year, we will definitely need to look into it further and figure out what that looks like. Are there exceptions to it? You know, will residents be going down from there, or will it stay the same? I think that'll all be fleshed out throughout the next year, but we need a plan in place for 2025.
And I think all that was the discussion in the committee meeting, that was a good plan going forward, the 10 and the 20, and then after that, the residents coming down and but we need that first year to get that data in order to do those things.
And get the fund built up a little bit. We need to basically start it running.
Like the water and sewer rate, you know, that was also discussed in the committee, and, you know, we all felt too that it needed to be a two-step process, not just one big jump and we're in.
It's enough of a jump as it is. We didn't want to jump it up really high one year. We're not, to be clear, we're not happy that we're having to do this. It's our own fault, falling on our own sword here, that we should have probably been raising rates the last X many years, but we've gotten behind and we have projects that we have to do. This is not optional, and we're going to go in the red if we don't have sufficient funds. So this is the most careful way we can do it, the most reasoned and data-backed way where we can get rates in a place where we can make sure these projects are tackled, that people have safe water and sewer systems, and we can pay for the needs, including storm sewer systems that have been neglected, unfortunately, heretofore. So, yeah, that was kind of the plan moving forward. I don't know, I guess we need to formalize whether we need a motion to proceed with those recommendations for 2025 so we can get that drafted, approved, and in place.
I move the water and sewer rates, we do the two-step plan on the rates, first year and second year, and the stormwater rate is $10 for residential and $20 for commercial, industrial.
And do we want to make part of that to formally create the stormwater utility, or is that already happening?
That would happen in and this is more of a motion for city staff to create
it, to bring it back.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, I see no notices or hearings, so we will move on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have appropriations ordinance.
Move to approve appropriation ordinance 3833 amount of $351,757.93.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Nope.
Nope.
Roll call.
Snelling,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Behrens,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bragg,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. All right, now we have the city administrator report. Josh?
Yes, so we had Larry's retirement party recently. He just finished up 18 years. So thank you for all that were able to make it. And then we will have Ruth's retirement party. She's worked for the city for 27 years. That'll be this Friday, November 1st. I believe it's 11:30 to 1. I believe that's correct. I think it's 11:30 to 1. I'll have to recheck and send it out to you.
What's the location?
Oh, sorry. It's at the Lee Dam Art Center.
That's not the same one we just approved, is it?
No, that is separate. That's November 2nd.
This is.
Her party, her city party is November 1st.
Yeah.
And then, as you all probably know, the main dish is going to be closing at the end of the year. So we are advertising that location. So when you see it in the paper this week, that's what that is for, which means we are accepting applications for it. We have already had one interested party apply. So we'll try to move forward with that as soon as, people have enough time to apply. And then we'll be meeting with the Kester Block Advisory Committee for them to recommend one to council.
So I know you said it'll be in the paper, but if people are just seeing it here online, they come to City Hall?
They can come to City Hall, fill out an application, and then they will go through the same process that we've had every other business in the block go through, where we'll have the Kester Block Advisory Committee review the applications, potentially interview if there's multiple, even if there's one, they'll probably interview, and then they'll make the decision as what business fits the best in that location and how we want to keep the block uniform, Okay, so on November 12th, we'll have a public hearing now for CDBG, so that's our next council meeting. So that will be on the agenda, just wanted everybody to be aware, so that way we can, have turnout if people feel it's necessary, but that is in relation to the commercial development in the Kester block. And then we've been working on a parks master plan in the office. We went ahead and applied to a recreation economy grant. We'll see if we get it. If we do, then that will provide support on the federal level. If we don't, well, we still want to move forward with the master plan. So at that time, we'll try to get more public involvement on what they're all feeling fits into each park or public space and how we move forward in those. We'd really like to put together something for the next 25 years. And then finally, on Monday, December 16th, this Department of Commerce, Kansas Department of Commerce, is set to visit. We'll have more info on that at a later time, but their division for quality places will probably be the ones that are coming in, potentially the same person that spoke at the station. So that was Matt Godinez. So he is an assistant secretary in the department. So we're hoping to do good things. We'll be discussing 7th Street. We'll be discussing downtown, how we can work to create quality places within our town that people want to gather in. So whether that's activating alleys, whether that's creating more pocket parks, or what that looks like, that'll all be discussed at that time. So
What time is that on Monday, the 16th?
we don't have that information yet. Yep.
Is that an open forum?
It will most likely not be, but we will be working together with Wayne and One Marysville to see what that all looks like. If it's full day, half day, an hour, we'll find that out as we go. But we're gonna try to get more, state officials into the city from a variety of different departments, so that way we can see what we need to do in order to take steps to improve some of our areas, such as, North 7th Street. And so that it also includes the Brownsfields program from K-State, so that's, TAB or TAB, yeah. And we're actively working on that, so. And I think that's everything.
Thank you. Next, we have standing committee reports. We had an admin finance committee meeting. We already discussed the grass decision there, but we also met with the board from One Marysville about the agreement moving forward there. I don't know that we have anything officially to report.
He did contact me too late to get in this agenda, that, because they were busy, but they're fine with that. What you guys came up with.
The contract, yeah.
With the last contract.
Contract proposal.
So it will bring forward, it'll come into the
So that will
next,
come next meeting.
next meeting.
I don't think we discussed anything else at that meeting, if I recall.
Yes.
What was the other thing?
Compensation.
Yes, we did discuss.
So that'll need to go to another admin finance meeting.
So we'll need to have another admin finance committee meeting. You were gonna get more information. We had some preliminary discussions on how we can improve the compensation package.
Yes, and then we'll also need an admin finance for, the youth advisory.
Yes.
Get my email on that, Todd. Youth advisory.
Oh, your AI email? Yes, I did. I don't believe in AI, but you know, here I am.
She's fascinated with it, yeah.
Okay, so we'll set up that admin finance committee meeting, next week, you thinking?
The 7th is when I think they want to try to do the Kester block, with interview.
The advisory committee.
Yeah,
on the 7th.
But that's during the day.
Yeah, so that doesn't have anything to do with the scheduling. So I'd say the 4th through the 8th or the 12th through the 15th, but we'll have the council meeting on the 12th, so.
Well, I'd be fine with us finding a way to do it 4th through the 8th, just so we can.
Try to shore up the youth.
Yeah, I want to make sure we've got the process moving forward, and that just gives us an extra week to.
Probably not the 5th.
How about the 6th,
5th is election day.
Exactly.
Did you say?
Wednesday?
Wednesday does not or does?
I have a meeting that night at 6. Can we do it at a different time that night?
That's fine with me.
7 or
I know I
5?
can give myself that night off.
5.
Can we do a 5? That'd be okay?
Wednesday at 5, that'd be the 6th, November 6th.
Yeah.
We're not having court, are we? That's I don't know when court is. It's on Wednesdays. Does anybody?
We are having it.
We are having court, yep.
So we can have it.
In the other room.
We can either have it in the other room, or we can have it at the fire station, or we just do it in the other room.
We can just do it in the other room.
Yeah, we'll just do it in the other
For
room.
many of us.
Okay. All right, we'll do that on November 6th. Do we need any other committee meetings?
Yes, we'll need a water and sewer committee.
What are we thinking on timing there?
Fourth work for you, Jeff, on a Monday?
Yeah, Mondays work better.
Huh?
Mondays are better for me.
What time?
5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Good for me.
Huh? Good.
5 o'clock? Okay.
Yep.
This Monday.
Yeah, the 4th at 5 o'clock.
Okay, do we have any other need for committees to meet? Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I know of.
No?
And I don't think we had any other reports either.
Okay. All right, I have no appointments or wage determinations. City attorney.
I've nothing for this evening. So that we will be going in, I would like to call for an executive session though.
Okay. What would this be in regards to?
Non-elected personnel, employee matters.
Okay.
Probably half an hour.
Half hour. I move the city council recess into executive session, discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel, discussion on specific personnel matters, not general personal policies, exception KSA 75-4319B1. Session will include the mayor, city council members, city administrator, and city attorney. This will last 30 minutes, be 8:50.
Okay.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we now return to regular session from executive session. No binding decisions were made.
I'll make a motion to terminate the employment of the city clerk.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to assign Sammy Ralph as interim city clerk.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7-0.
Make a motion to open up a job search for our city clerk.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7-0.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7-0.
Okay, we are adjourned.